Welcome everybody. We're going to start with Constantine, one of the most complex and controversial allies out there. So now we have Zero's Blessing, creates a ward at the center of healing field abilities. Duration is 12 seconds, cooldown is 24. You get 5% to defense, 4% to might, and 2% to precision. So here's an example of a healing field ability with nature. And then here's an example of the healing field ability with Zero's Blessing active. You get that center mass where you can stand and get the bonuses that the ally gives you. So now here we have our base stats. So you can see what it was pre-buff. Now when you activate Zero's Blessing, here's the buff that you get. You get 5% to defense, 5% to might, and 1.5% to precision. Just depending on where you pop that healing field is who will be able to get the buff. Okay, so now let's get into Runic Recourse. Using stat buff trinkets as bonus power and a shield. The duration is for 12 seconds. Using it, you get an instant power return of 50%, and then over time you get 20% times 12 of your power back to yourself. Now here's the visuals for Runic Recourse. When you activate a stat buff trinket, you get this shield. Very unique looking, very aesthetically pleasing. I like it. One of my favorite shields in the game. So when you use Runic Recourse, you get 12 seconds of protection. When you activate Book of the Black damages you increasingly. So it starts off small, and then you get to the max where it damages you of 173,000, give or take. So other shields in the game, they can break depending on the damage. So once you're getting the 173,000 damage, other shields have a propensity to break, but not Runic Recourse. It will protect you for the full duration of the 12 seconds, no matter the attack, except for if it's the bombs. That's not, no shield is protecting you from the bombs. But overall, this is a very strong shield. So now let's get into his signature combat ability, the Ward of Zoriel. So the Ward of Zoriel creates a ward around Constantine. The radius is 10 meters, duration 15 seconds with a 30-second cooldown. You get 10% defense, 18% might, 9% precision, and it does the knockback and inflicts bad karma, which is beneficial to mainly sorcery players. So here we are again with our base stats, defense, might, and precision. So when you activate the Ward of Zoriel, you give you a 10% increase in defense, 14% in might, and 7% precision just by staying in the circle. So Constantine, he's interesting. His combat ability is not more so for damage because it has a tendency to knock back the adds, which keeps him away from the healing circle. So it's mainly a group buff is what it's for, to buff your allies. And mainly that's only buffing your DPS because the healer is probably not sitting in that circle because they're not getting many beneficial stats except for defense. Your tank is going to be tanking the boss, so he's going to be away from the... So you have mainly just the DPSs and maybe the controller over here. So when picking Constantine, you just have to decide, is the buff that you'll get using Constantine more beneficial than the combat ability that you would get from using any other ally? So that's the choice you have to make for yourself. If you can put out more damage in the time that you have Constantine than activating another ally, then use them. If not, then it may behoove you to use a different ally. It's all about preference and choice. Now let's get into Shazam. So the first ability we're talking about is Purity of Heart. When you're in healer role, weapon attacks grant stacks of 1% restoration up to a maximum stack of 25 stacks. Using a priority heal or group heal removes all stacks. The cooldown is half a second. So here we are again. Base stats. Here's our base resto. And here's all the increases. So I guess they're going from base equals the first one because I was only able to get 24 stacks. Also using weapon attacks. So if you're using weapon mastery, it's only on the first hit of the Shuriken Storm and then the second hit where you spin around. It's not all the hits. So it took me to get 98 on the hit counter to be able to get up to the max stacks of the increased restoration. So just, you know, be mindful of that. You're not going to get an increase just for every weapon attack. So my base healing with the base resto was about 128, 594,000. That was my average healing without the buff. And using the max buff, I got 146,185 healing. So, you know, there's 20,000 increase in healing, but you don't lose it, so you'll, you know, consistently gain it as long as you're in combat. Okay, so now we get into the power of Shazam. Calling down an ally grants 12% might, 6% precision for 30 seconds. So there's a visual. You get surrounded by lightning when you call out an ally, and it only activates with allies, not with henchmen, not with combat pets, none of that, just with allies only. So there's our base stats, and here's the increase with calling down an ally. So you get 9% to might and 5% to precision whenever you call them down, and that lasts for the duration stated earlier. So here we have Bolt of Zeus. Fires a lightning bolt that chains between targets, healing up to 4 allies for 60% of their maximum health and damaging up to 4 enemies. So when you call down Shazam, after he does his little talk, he'll fire a lightning bolt, and that lightning bolt will damage the enemies and also heal you for 60% of your health. And if you have less than 60% of health you know, damaged, then he'll heal you for the remainder. Now, Shazam is one of my favorite words, very interesting. Only because he damages 4 enemies, but he heals you for 60% twice. So the healing is great, the damage not so much, because, you know, you're limited. Now if there's a bunch of ads out along with a boss, then you're not getting much use of his combat ability, but you're getting a good amount for the healing. So I think it's role depending on using that. The power of Shazam, again, is another support that I can't really see using, because you don't call down your allies enough to get the consistent buff from that. And with the buff, you know, the other ability, the restoration, is not a significant enough buff either to not use another support character to gain something that you'll be using consistently to help out your teammates. So this is another ally that if I wasn't testing him, I probably wouldn't have leveled him up, because I don't think, for me, it's all that useful. Alright, moving forward, let's jump into the Flash. So first thing that we'll talk about will be his support ability, Flash Heal. Using a group heal grants supercharge to you and your healed group members. So using a group heal. So anytime that you here's the visuals of it, matter of fact. So the cool little flash insignia pops up, and anytime you use a group heal, you will heal not only yourself but the team members that were healed for a 50 supercharge. Okay, walk it off. The ability at the center of a new controversy. So anytime that you use a supercharge, you get 15% of that supercharge healed back to you, or restored to you, should I say. And also fast travel delay reduction is by 2%, but that's not even worth even really talking about. So if you use a 2500 supercharge, it restores 15%, which is 375. A 5000 supercharge, 15% for 750. And if you use a 10,000 supercharge, you'll get 1500 supercharge restored every time that you use the supercharge. Also, there's no cooldown, so you can use a 2500 and a 5k, two 2500s, two 5ks at the 10 and 25, however your loadout is set up. You can consistently use them, and you'll always receive your supercharge back as long as you have supercharge. So now we have his combat ability, Tilt the Whirl. It's a cone attack, does knockdown. So Flash's combat ability is pretty low. He's at 2319, so he's at the lower end of the allies. The Flash heal, I didn't know much about it prior to doing this test, to be honest with you, and I think it's a very good combat ability. Gaining 50 supercharge for you and your teammates every time you pop a group heal, definitely something that could be beneficial. If you didn't want to use Walk It Off, I can see that being used for healers exclusively. Now Walk It Off is also a great move too, because you get 15% of the supercharge used restored back to you. So I don't see anything wrong with using that. I'm going to make another video about Flash versus Black Adam versus Zoom and all that other stuff, but for me, I would prefer to use Flash to Black Adam But again, that's my preference. You do whatever you think is best for you. I just think that once you have Supercharge, it's better with him. Okay, now we get into the single target king, Flashpoint Batman. So his first support ability, Combat Suture, activating a weapon buff ability, heals you for 10% of your maximum health. Cooldown is 10%. So of course, we're going to show our stats, 1.7 million, and all the change with it. So anytime you activate your weapon buff, you get healed for 10% of your health. So every 12 seconds, you get that heal. So now we have Soul Detective. You gain 50% defense while not in a group, and 4.9% defense within a group. So by yourself, 15%. So the numbers add up to exactly what they say they are. That's the defense that you gain using that ability. Now we have Crime Alley Assault. This is his combat ability. Basically, he just shoots everybody up, and he's on a relentless attack. So he's number 1 in single target. And he's 17 when it comes to AoE. So he's, middle of the pack since you're 33 allies. So he's just at the middle of the pack. For combat ability, if you're worried about just combat ability, he's a good combat ally to use. The Combat Suture is, I like it. I use it when I'm battle tanking, since I use him, and I use Starfire, since I'm consistently using that buff for Starfire. So every 12 seconds, it also heals me, and it also helps proc Razor. So I think some roles can use this and make it viable for their build. And I'm not running a Supercharge. So since I'm not running a Supercharge, it helps me keep Razor proc, keep my health up. So I like it, but again, it's all on what you want to do. Would I invest resources into this? I'm on the fence about it because I don't know. Just for the damage, maybe not. But I use Combat Suture, so maybe I would. For you, you have to make that choice if you think this is something that's going to be beneficial for yourself as well. Okay, now we're going to jump into Zoom. So with Professor Zoom, we're going to jump into Hot Foot. Hot Foot increases movement speed. While in combat, pull abilities grant bonus supercharge. Your movement speed increased by 15% in combat, 30% out of combat. But every time you use a pull, you gain 25 plus 25 to supercharge. And it doesn't matter what the pull is. Iconic pull, power set pull. So I use Mesmerizing Lasso, Vine Whip, and Tornado Pull from the movement mode. So as long as it says pull, I'm able to get that ability to proc. Okay, so here's an example of Hot Foot. When I use a pull, I get the 25 supercharge. Lord Aiden's Hot Foot, heal Lord Aiden for 25 supercharge. So every time you use a pull, but if you do it too fast, it won't register it. So right there I used 3 pulls, but it only registered the first 2 pulls, the Vine Whip and the Mesmerizing Lasso. So it's all about, you can't do it too fast because it won't register. So now we'll jump into Malicious Marathon. Movement mode attacks grant stacks of might and precision. Duration 8 seconds. You get 0.25% might, and you get 0.125% precision. So a 1/4% might and an 1/8% precision. So Malicious Marathon, here's the visuals, which I like. The little glowing red around your hands, pretty cool. So here's the precision that you gain. When you go from base to the first level, for might you get a 0.4% increase, and then for precision you get a 0.34% increase, and then everything after that is a 0.2% for might and a 0.104% for precision. And then that's our max stats that you get at 19 stacks. So anytime you use a movement mode attack, you'll get this increase. This was interesting testing because it's nice, when you're, for precision players, this would have been nice when precision was more viable, because you use these attacks a lot and you would be steadily increasing them, but the increase is so low that I don't think that that's worth it at all. I don't feel like it's worth a spot at all, because a 1/4% increase in might and an 1/8% increase in precision, how much damage is that really adding? You could put any ally there and get better stats, more useful stats, anything. So let's talk about his Worldly Gig. His combat attack, it's not too much to talk about. He's at the low tier. He's 26th in single target and 20th in AoE. So for me, Zoom is a really low tier ally. Hot Foot, if you're not a tank, and in certain instances a controller, you shouldn't really have a pull in your loadout. It just interferes with the synergy of the raid. So I don't really know why you would have a pull in your loadout to consistently be using it to gain 25 supercharge. I don't think that's worth it. So it's something that I'm not using. I don't use movement mode attacks either, so I wouldn't be using the malicious ability either. Doesn't make sense. Even if I was a precision player and doing all the clipping and everything like that, I still wouldn't use that ability because I don't think it's worthwhile. So in my opinion, Zoom is one to stay away from also. Again, my opinion. You guys are free to do whatever you want to do, but I wouldn't invest anything into Zoom. His support abilities are not good enough. His combat ability is definitely low tier. I won't call it trash, but it's not great. So it's up to you. Make the decision of your own. So this is a showcase to let you know what I think about the situation, but I say Zoom is one to stay away from. So that was our little showcase there. Choose what you like. I'm just here to present the information and let you, make your own decisions. But let's jump into a little bit, talk about my thoughts on some of these. So I touched on it earlier, but Constantine, he is an ally that I like personally. Before they did the tweaks to his group buff, it was a lot stronger, but his group buff can be beneficial in the right instance. Yes, it will boost your allies, your teammates, should I say, to get more damage, but if it's clearing the boss, I don't really care about a scoreboard. I just want to complete the instance, get whatever I'm after, marks, resources, henchmen, whatever the instance is. I just want to get out of there, so I don't have a problem with buffing the group to get that out of there. The shield, I think, is one of the best shields in the game. I like it. So for me, Constantine is definitely a go, and is definitely one that I would have upgraded just in watching and reading and learning about him. So for me, I think it's worth spending the resources in. Now with the other allies, I say Flash is another one that I can see spending resources in, running a supercharge. I think all of his support abilities are good, some better than the others. Walk It Off, I think, is great because you do get that 15% restoration of your supercharge, which is only helpful if you want to do a supercharge spam, and with all the other the headpiece, if you're using EOG, whichever one, the supercharge restoration is good no matter which one that you're using. And combine all the supercharge restoration mods and everything else, I just see Walk It Off as being something that just helps you. Flash healing, I like that also. When you're running in groups, if you're a healer, it's definitely beneficial. I mean, you're healing the group all the time, so you're getting supercharge to them, and you're also giving supercharge yourself to help build it up. It's not the same as running EOG for that time period, but it's helping during the course of the run to build supercharge faster, which should only get it done even quicker. So I'm a fan of it. Now another ally that, for me, if I wasn't testing all of these allies, I probably would have leveled up Flashpoint Batman because I like combat suture. For fire and with Pages of the Black and Razor, the combination, when I have flash heals, I can let Razor attack me, not Razor, let Pages of Black maybe get one attack off while I'm rotating my shields or rotating into Burning Determination, whatever it is, and it doesn't affect me as much as it would somebody else. But this is for me as a fire player. As other powers that don't heal themselves, maybe not. Potentially not quantum or munitions or gadgets, but maybe electricity, maybe rage. It just all depends. But for me personally, I'm a fan of this ally. Now the other allies, I wouldn't level up. I wouldn't level up Zoom. I see none of his abilities being worthwhile. His combat ability is bottom tier, so I wouldn't level him up at all. And Shazam, I think people overlook that his combat ability says 4 enemies attacked, 4 teammates healed. So when you put that into account, I don't care for it. And then the buffs that you do get with him, the duration is short, and it's not even a high enough buff to make it, worth the risk of having that. So that's just my take on it. I would pick the 3 in that order, probably Constantine, Flash, and then Flashpoint Batman. But again, make whatever decision is great for you. Just information for you to have. So hope you like, subscribe, share, and all that other good stuff. I appreciate everybody for watching and taking the time. So have a good one, everybody.